Hey there, welcome to episode 89 of the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, and we are recording this late in the day on Friday, November 8, 2024. It's about 4:45 p.m. Episode 89 already. Can't believe it. It's already November, end of the year, the end of season 1 approaching. Some good things, I suppose. It's been a tumultuous week for some. Myself, I try to avoid getting too emotionally involved. Logically, sensibly, from a policy standpoint, disappointing. But if you're entrepreneurial, if you're innovative, now's a good time to flip those switches on. Today we're going to speak about civic startups. That is to say, turning those entrepreneurial and innovative light switches on and pointing the lights at some civic responsibility, at some socially elevating ideation, doing something interesting and thinking locally, because if you are celebrating or if you are feeling powerless, and I don't want to turn this is not a therapy session, so I'm gonna leave that there. It might be interesting to consider how you might make a difference locally where previously you might have been looking to our federal government, to maybe your state government officials and so on, to do things for you, to solve problems and so on. And some things they have to. That's the way the laws work. That's the way the infrastructure is arranged and so on. But there are circumstances where individuals or groups of people can take things on themselves. And sometimes entrepreneurial thinking is exactly what is needed. And I've been saying for a long time, it's difficult to make a connection directly, although we're going to see if that changes. Obviously, I'm not speaking about every single person, but generally speaking, there's a chunk of a population that is barely affected day to day, so it's difficult to imagine how to affect change other than at the ballot box. I did receive a notification. I haven't mentioned this in this program before. I posted my ballot. I dropped it off. And I received an email this morning in the automated ballot handling system that Nevada has instituted that my ballot was finally received and logged. I suppose that means they ran it through the Scantron thing, whatever the technology is today. And my vote has been counted. It's interesting to see which winners I chose and which ones I did not. Anyway, you've all been through the same thing in one way or another. So again, if you are entrepreneurial, if you are innovative, you are already looking towards opportunity. The Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program is about those things. Entrepreneurialism, innovation, the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem that is found to some degree in the greater Vegas area. That is Southern Nevada in the United States. We take a look at our local economy, at entrepreneurs, individual entrepreneurs. And eventually, in the early days of this audio program, I had guests that were in a similar space, working with entrepreneurs in the so-called startup scene, etc. We'll get back to that eventually. As we'll talk about today, and as I have talked about previously, engaging with the people around you in real life is important, and developing ideas that move in that direction is probably a good thing. It will probably be more healthy than becoming a TikToker. I don't know if it will be as lucrative. I cannot promise you will make crazy TikTok money by being present in your locality and actually speaking to human beings in real life now and then. But it might be worth a try. Your mileage may vary. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you were able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes. I'll warn you ahead of time, no links today. There are several things I could have linked to, but at the end of a week such as this one, I'm sure anyone listening to this, it will either be in a distant future or in a collection of uplifting stories that and presentations and discussions that will drive you away from wanting to click on anything. So I'll save you the trouble. The summary of today's episode is exactly this: interesting times ahead, no matter how you feel about our incoming administration and associated changes in the U.S. Congress, and changes you may experience closer to home at local levels. Big changes. One of my favorite sayings may offer a starting point for some ideation and innovation. So let us get that conversation started with a monologue. Because again, no guests today. The links are the same shameless self-promotion links that you've heard before. Hopefully you've clicked on them. I need to freshen them up a bit. I'm developing at least one more audio program, and 25 other things, which I will stop lamenting. I think I've said this before. I need to start talking about things that I've finished, not things that are preventing me from finishing things. The buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo page, the profile page, has links to all of my audio programs, various projects, and my favorite coffees, because coffee is what powers all of my endeavors. You don't have to spend any money at this or the next website. You don't have to do anything, really. Use it as a central connection point for all of my projects and whatnot. Both this site and Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. Both of these sites are used frequently by open source developers or people publishing articles, discussion, or research or other. If you want to support my work, visit these sites. So similar deal. I'm not hard pressing anyone for any of that. I'm also not sponsored. No advertising or anything. So there you go. So visit those sites if you like, and let's get the party started. So what is my saying? What is the thing I say all the time? I've said it before. Chaos is opportunity. I've mentioned this many times before. I use this all the time. And while it is based on a poor interpretation of a Chinese character that suggests the similarity, I believe I have referenced it explicitly before. John F. Kennedy, when he was president, made a reference to this in a speech he was making. It's a misinterpretation, so it's not a Chinese expression. It's not a ancient piece of wisdom or whatnot. But it remains true, nonetheless. The take home: when there is a problem, there is a potential solution. And entrepreneurial, innovative thinkers can take advantage of the circumstances to try out new ideas aimed at those potential solutions. It's as simple as that. Roll credits, let's go home. Now, sometimes chaos enables lucrative opportunities. Sometimes chaos enables responsible opportunities. These may sometimes, they may be both, but for this episode, let's look at startups or initiatives or side hustles that might benefit from a long tail, but which are not necessarily aimed at getting venture funding and selling it in 5 to 7 years and making a ton of money and so on. Let's look at actual value proposition, community elevation, engagement with those around you. Think local. It doesn't mean you can't make money. It doesn't mean you can't make tons of money. Every once in a while, some idea blows up. But is that the goal, or is that a bonus? So let's, as Simon Sinek might say, let's start with why. At the time of this recording, just days after a national election that has been called for the office of president, at least, a few other, I think the Senate, everything has been called for that, I think. The federal government. And then different states are finally coming in. Nevada has a couple of things that are incomplete, awaiting finale. There are millions of people gloating and millions of people lamenting. By the way, there are more millions of people, not quite a sum of those. It'll be interesting to see the final certified results in December, or between now and December. How many people voted? How many people were registered? Those are the two. So those who were eligible to vote who did not may or may not be gloating. They may not have any idea that an election took place. It's hard to say. We can ponder some lessons to be learned in this opportunity window to start. So we can start with the chaos happening now. Generally speaking, the internet pendulum has already been swinging back towards decentralized platforms and services. I myself make heavy use of Mastodon. You can say it's a Twitter replacement. It's different, which puts people off a little bit, like, oh, it doesn't work like Twitter. But it's one example. It's one that has caught on, and it works. It works great. It's not exactly Twitter, but then if you want exactly Twitter, go to Twitter or X. There are countless opportunities to remove top-down control and central planning and management of online communities. availability of information, and so on. So you shouldn't have to lament being canceled. My account was suspended. I said the wrong word. I followed the wrong person, etc. So these are the result of top-down, possibly ideological or other forms of, I'm not going to say censorship because that's not how that word or that First Amendment works, but it's just the fact that you are using someone else's platform. Anyone can run their own Mastodon server, although configuring it is a pain. But you can avoid some of that by investigating the exciting world of decentralization and federation. And no, I'm not touting the blockchain. The blockchain itself is an interesting technology, solves a couple of problems. Not sure if it's the best. The cryptocurrency scams that ride on top of the blockchain technology, not as interesting. Unless you're a criminal or running for president, then maybe. Generally speaking, the internet pendulum, though, has swung away from, now not nearly 100%, but away from, got to use Twitter and Facebook. And I have a feeling that the pendulum will be slightly, will move a bit further and farther away from these notions. Everybody going to one or a very limited number of places to get their information, to attempt to change people's opinions and so on, seems like it's socially unhealthy. It just doesn't feel right. And you may agree. Generally, not everything is technology. And not every opportunity revolves around an app. It's a sad state of affairs when everything that people might want to imagine doing involves React Native. An iPhone, I got to build an iPhone app. Like, I wish people were more creative than that. I know people are. On the other hand, there usually is some component of an idea that will involve sharing information, accepting information. You want to take a survey, you want to accept comments on something, you want to, things along those lines. So you're either sharing or receiving, maybe analyzing some of that stuff in there. But the why is about the actual outcome, which will ideally be the result of an examination of the chaos as you see it around you and the implementation of some solution that tackles the opportunity. It could be anything. So there may be an app, there may be a technology, there may be use of some existing service. Maybe you're going to use Eventbrite to get to have people sign up for tickets for your meetup, right? You're using technology, but it's not like a tech meetup. But not everything is tech. Don't forget that. Let's talk ideation. Let's talk scrolling. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Let's talk ideation. A few topic ideas to start with. This is not a startup pitch session. I'm just throwing out some notions, throwing them around to kick off some ideation. Ideation is basically brainstorming, spitballing, which you are welcome to run with. So if something I say here, whether directly or by implication, sparks some creativity, don't ask, just do it. First, let us get some enabling tech components out of the way because everybody still thinks that any startups have to be tech. And as I just mentioned, ideation does not need to revolve around tech or a tech idea. But there are some tools that might be a part of any effort. So I already kind of gave this one away. Federation and decentralization are entering mainstream now, finally. Platforms that use ActivityPub like Mastodon or Lemmy or PeerTube or PixelFed. The list goes on, and it's growing. To share information between federated servers, that means it's just like email, actually. Every single time anyone has asked anything about how this works, while it's a dramatic oversimplification, from a user perspective, it's basically email. So I can send an email from my email server to what does that even mean? Well, you want to send me an email to yahoo.com for some reason, and you're sending your email from gmail.com, just works. And a lot of work has gone into making that happen. ActivityPub is like that as well. So behind the scenes, there are people that are spending a lot of time and effort to make these systems work, but they're working for the benefit of the masses so that people can share ideas, can communicate interact, engage in creative ways without relying on one single business owner and any proclivities that might spring up on a particular day. It does swing in the correct direction of the posse notion, the publish on your own server and syndicate everywhere or elsewhere idea that has been floating around for quite some time. And it's really just a return to the old ways. Own your stuff, publish it the way you want, and share it with the people you want to share it with. And it doesn't get much more simple than that. These tools are available. These platforms are available. These methods are available. It's a good way to consider whatever it is you want to work on, to engage with other people near and far. So there you go. And there are ways to communicate with people also that are not phone number or email centric. There's one that's kind of interesting called Nostr. I know it sounds weird. Nostr. Nostr. So you can, if you search for Nostr, you're going to find loads of information, more than you want. But you can sign up for a Nostr ID, I guess. I've actually only read about it. I've not followed through and signed up. But you have a Nostr ID. Someone can send you a message from their Nostr ID, and you'll receive it through relays. And that's it. Nobody needs to know your name or your phone number or your email address. It's an interesting idea for managing privacy-aware contacts and communications. And there are so much going on behind the scenes to enable this sort of thing. I think it's worth examining depending on what your civic startup idea might be. Calendars are a great tool for coordinating meetups and other activities, mostly because that's pretty much why they exist. Also for agriculture. So too often we hand off this essential organizing tool to the likes of Meetup or Eventbrite, or much worse, the silos that are Facebook or LinkedIn. So you're using tools that work in their own silo, but between silos, So why do that? There are so many tools available out in the world. Federated calendars are coming because they were already here decades ago, thanks to the way CalDAV works. CalDAV is the way servers talk to each other. So when you get a calendar event from somebody's Outlook server or whatever, right, wherever it is, your calendar is updated on the Google, if it's a Google calendar, on the Google server, because the Google server has gotten the update from wherever the other calendar is. They said, oh, we canceled an event. We added a new event. We changed the time, right? And so those all synchronize. I don't have I can follow calendars I want to follow, but thanks to this calendar syndication model, calendars can share information, but not be tied to one single provider of a service. So this has been around for a while, and it's worth looking into. But more generally, being calendar centric and not commercial entity or legacy old school social media platform centric will enable you to have more control over what you are trying to accomplish, what you're trying to work on, what you're trying to advance, without wondering, are they going to change the policy? Which, by the way, meetup.com does for who can see who's going to attend an event. I don't know why they keep changing back. It's ridiculous. Do things the way you want to do them. Calendars. Email and mailing lists are not going away anytime soon, though there is a heavy concentration of email flowing through Google's Gmail service. I want to say, I think I saw a number that said 86% of all email users are using Gmail, Google Mail. And I'm very guilty of this. I have many Gmail accounts. I'm probably 1% of that 86%. And I mean, without me, it's 85%, mostly. Note that they have a particular spam filter policies. They control the roadways. They control who can travel them, which may make mailing lists a challenge to work around. So you may find that people are not receiving the mail on your mailing list because because I said so. That said, do not underestimate your subscriber list. So if you can build up a mailing list with subscribers, and that's the business model of Substack and Ghost and others, and the possibilities of direct engagement. So you have your subscriber list, you can send out your newsletter or other mailings, and then the possibility of direct engagement. If your subscribers opt in, You can actually have conversations with people. You can ask them to join on a Nostr discussion group, and they don't even have to share their email address. So yeah, don't underestimate the value of having people actually be interested proactively in what you're working on, and maybe being a part of it. Also, don't forget about encryption and privacy. Privacy-aware decentralized platforms previously mentioned, for examples. Yeah, encrypt your email. Encrypt your email, people. Phishing attacks. I don't know why we are not encrypting email with verifiable signatures. The technology's been around since we were kids. And data, and by the way, this is absolutely not an exhaustive list. I'm throwing out a couple of suggestions as starting points. Data, there's only more and more data available, and you can add more data to that data for yet more data. Tools to, so I'm really talking about open data. Tools to manage, represent, and analyze data are many, many, many. And machine learning tools are making all of this even more interesting. Whatever you are pondering, there is almost certainly a data element to consider. And there are tons of tools, databases, data visualization, data manipulation, data analysis, data scientists. Think about it. Getting back to the human interaction, do not forget that social engagement is in real life is important, as are discussions, debates, and getting out of your comfort zone and encouraging others to do the same. There is little doubt that social media platforms that centralize, aggregate, and polarize huge swaths of the population, or of a population in a region, for example, have had a net negative impact on the health of our society on the whole, here in the United States and probably elsewhere. Returning to a notion of smaller conversations more often between real people and among different political ideologies and alignments might actually be doable at local scale. Consider starting there. So yeah, engaging people that you can actually talk to, interact with, co-create your idea with. It's a real possibility. There has been talk through the week, of course, this is a tough week for some, among content creators, mostly on the YouTube, strangely enough, that there is a need for a Joe Rogan on the left, and so on. This is a great example of chasing a trend because it seems popular, but not pursuing an idea because it has potential. Political or otherwise, reinventing the wheel can yield some success. Google was not the first to market in search, as we know, with very few trailblazers going the distance overall, depending on what your success metrics are, of course. But if you are not good at inventing wheels, you are not likely to succeed. You're likely to be disappointed. Play to your strengths, and that might start by finding others with different strengths, but similar goals, and maybe collaborating. So yeah, the rush should not be, let's do what they're doing. The rush might be, let's identify what's not working and try to do something about it. It might be a completely different. So I'm not a Joe Rogan fan, I have to say, but generally speaking, if you only find inspiration in duplicating the existing effort of some other fill in the blank, then you'll get what you get. But try to be innovative. Speaking of innovative, let's talk about innovation. Jumping into a political focus might be interesting today, but is division something to invest yourself in? Political anything today is fairly divisive. I think that's pretty fair. It might be. I am not here to tell you what to do in that regard. But there are a few areas that are universally interesting and important in general. And it is possible that your ideas could benefit horizontal diversity across ideologies, I should say, and identities, or it may benefit vertical diversity along party lines and whatnot. So it's up to you. You could build something without those any sort of identity in mind. You could merely aim at having a diverse population of consumers or users or whatever it is you're doing, and then see where it goes. I will use a First Friday example in this first item here. You could build a First Friday event, and if you're not familiar with what a First Friday event is, it's almost always on a Friday, right near the beginning of a month, and it's usually sort of a somewhere central location. Maybe it's a city scale event, and it usually focuses on art and artists, and music and food trucks usually, or maybe there's some restaurants that mix in there. So yeah, it kind of gets people outside and whatnot. You could have such an event, and if it happens to align with, hey, First Friday has become a intensely right-leaning gathering, that may or may not be what you want. It may be successful. So you may not set out to do that. And I personally, and this is just my 2 cents, I would recommend not starting out down a division path, but that's up to you. Effective large social gatherings, though, are an example. So First Friday is an example. Doing something with large social gatherings or with a large in-person impact where people actually have to show up, they have to take that action, and remind people that there are other people outside of their bubble, but literally right down the street. I would suggest bringing back midnight movies. We used to attend midnight movies all the time when I was in high school in Phoenix, Arizona, when the temperature would drop below 100. Go see a movie on a Friday night. I was unable to locate midnight movies here in Vegas during the summer. Effective small-scale social gatherings. Remember Neighborhood Watch back in the day? I don't know about you, but where I live in the Centennial Hills area of the city of Las Vegas, if I still had a car, it would probably have been broken into or stolen multiple times by now. So part of the problem, in my opinion, is that people don't know their neighbors. Guess what? Nextdoor.com does not count. See, Nextdoor is a great example of where I know I'll build an online tool that enables people to snipe at each other, make racist comments, talk about all manner of sometimes they are interesting because they're crime related or safety related, but oftentimes it's people with bad opinions or the oh so common, my car got broken into last night. I forgot to lock my doors. Okay, that's not breaking in. That's I think burglary is often the act of breaking in. So if you leave your door to your car or your home unlocked, I believe it's a different crime. Trespassing, maybe, and then whatever else. So think neighborhoods. Do you know your neighbors? Do you know who has Nest cameras pointing at you? So, and I'm not just talking about events, and I'm also not talking about developing applications. I'm talking about anything along a full spectrum of like, what is going on within visual range of where I live, or maybe a couple of blocks over too also. So this is sometimes not where people are thinking when they want to, I want to start a company. I want to start up. I want to be in the startup scene. And I know that means more than showing up at Tech Alley, because it does. So what do you do? So, okay, start thinking. Start with where you are. Look out your window. If you have windows. Coordination. Think market forces. If the price of eggs and gasoline were and are so important, and by the way, they are. I've talked about this a few times recently in my other programs. There should be some recognition that the consumers are in the majority. I don't know if you know this, but if there are 1,000 grocery stores in your neighborhood, and I hope there are not, there are probably more than 1,000 people. Maybe there's 1 million people. So the 1 million people can decide to just randomly show up at grocery stores, or you can coordinate your efforts. Not quite collective bargaining, but close. Gas Buddy is a start. It allows people to, it's a crowdsource application that lets people type in here's the gas station, here's their pricing for each of the grades of gasoline, date, so you can see where's the cheapest gas in your neighborhood and so on. But coordinate buying destinations with better prices. So say, hey, let's go to the Smiths or the Albertsons or the Vons or the Safeway or the Kroger or whatever, or the Ralphs, or pick your whatever store you go to. Today, we're all going to go to this store and demand a lower price on, I don't know, something crazy. Eggs. We want 12 eggs for the price of 18. No. We're getting that already. We want 18 eggs for the price of 12. Yeah, that's it. Collective bargaining in that case. Let's act together to get a better price, and we'll show up with numbers. And you can tell the store ahead of time, hey, we have a buying community, and we make bulk purchases based on the ability to negotiate a better price. And I have bad news for you. This is not a new idea. But what would be new is to actually enable this coordination. Now, here's where the use of some sort of an online tool might be useful, but it could be as simple as an email, or it could be as simple as a decentralized microblog like Mastodon. Today, eggs. We're going to get $1.52 for 12 grade AA large eggs at Ralph's. Come there at noon, between noon and 4 p.m. on Thursday, right? You send that out, and people might say, okay, I'll show up for that. So then you tell Ralph's, okay, we have 25,000 people subscribed to this mailing list, and this is the email that's going out. Now, you don't have to threaten them, because if they say, no, we can't meet that price, you say, well, what price can you meet? And you advertise for free, and you clear out their egg inventory in 4 hours. So for them, we don't have to store these eggs, and we can order more, and they're not going to go bad. We don't have to do any tossing of eggs. Is that what you do with eggs when they go bad? It's an idea. It's an idea that would actually lead you to engage with your local retail outlets to figure out how you can negotiate with big numbers. Yeah, if you have a lot of consumers working with you, when you represent that sort of buying power, guess what? You can set prices. Coordinated buying decisions with destinations with better prices, or drive better prices, reduce customer traffic to price gouging outlets through awareness. So that same mailing list could be, Smith's has eggs, but they're $1 more per 12 per dozen than Ralph's. So don't go to Smith's for 7 days and get, technically don't get eggs, but don't go to Smith's at all. Why not? We know Smith's and Albertsons are colluding. The great Lena Khan will be sad to see her go. I really will be. But they've already identified this as a price gouging scheme. So take it into your own hands. And so you can build platform and tools and methods and use the existing simple technology like email and mailing lists to coordinate a better position for people in your locality. It could be your neighborhood. It could be your city. Take back the marketplace. Unlike houses, there are, only one person or family can purchase a home, but eggs come in dozens and dozens come in hundreds, thousands, however they ship eggs nowadays. So it's not a single product. It's not non-fungible. Eggs are definitely fungible. So reduce the price of those eggs with your market forces. Humanism is still a thing. Consider tools, methods, and group formation and communication schemes focused on those in at-risk populations particularly, and even those who might not be doing well. Let me fix a quick typo here. Even those who might not be doing well. There is still a possibility in today's day and age for neighborhoods and local populations to come together in a variety of ways to help others that are often not doing so well and are not on the radar. So make the radar. So that's a civic, proactively civic elevating, community elevating undertaking to make it easier for people to connect around being human. Imagine that. Dashboards over rivers. What does that mean? Doom scrolling on phones has become the way that we experience the world and events taking place within it. And it's horrible. Take aim at making more information available in one look. You want an example? Calendars. Like, I have to scroll through 57 articles to figure out what's going on Tuesday. Nope. Look at the calendar. There it is. Look on Tuesday. 3 things going on. Bam. Which one do you want to go to? All 3, because they don't overlap. Even better. So calendars are a great example. The weather. You don't have to read through 25 TikTok videos. You don't have to listen to 18 podcasts. You just go to the weather. It tells you the weather. Some news websites have the weather at the top of the page, like a little icon with a number. I myself have 2 different readouts of temperature right now, and they both say it's 61 degrees in here in Vegas. 61 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 degrees Celsius. Boom. They're from different sources, so they may be off a little bit. But anyway, you should not have to flip through TikTok videos or YouTube videos. You shouldn't have to doom scroll all day. You should be able to see where things are, get some idea of how your community, how your city, how your state, how the world is doing with a quick look. Make that information available that is boring yet correct and useful. If you had an egg index price, the high, the low, today's close, whatever, if eggs were the commodity, and by the way, the commodities market already exists, just not for consumers. So if you could actually see the price of eggs, and then you could see an actual trend. Hey, let me see real quick. What's been the trend on egg pricing here in Vegas for the last 72 months? Oh yeah, look, there was a spike there, but it's kind of come down. I guess they could be worse. And I will point out, with a coupon, I could get 5 18, what is that, dozen and a half? 18 egg cartons. I can get 5 of those for $5. Is that insane? Because 18 eggs with a coupon were $1 at Smith's, and I could use the coupon 5 times. So literally more eggs than any one person should ever consider purchasing for $5. That's insanity. And now, 1 carton of 18 eggs, egg cartons. 1 carton of 18 eggs has been as high as just under $7 here in Vegas. I know that from memory just because I have that handy. But as a busy person, as a person trying to maintain a household, going to work and school or whatever your day is like, and whoever's in charge of grocery shopping, eggs are just more expensive now. I remember them being cheaper. And so to have some sense of where we are on the price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of anything that you're interested in, your personal buying power is something that matters to people. I think we've gotten that message. So think about it. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be shopping. You can display a lot of information so that people feel they have some sense of what's happening without it being loaded up with political angst, too much ideological leaning, too much of demeaning of one group over another, etc. Just the facts. That'll be fine. Coordinate youth activities that are outside or at least away from social media, swinging. And by the way, I am not anti-phone for young people, but social media is a garbage pile. If I can pick up on some of the new lingo, it's a garbage pile that should never be allowed in the hands of anyone. Swinging back towards interaction and engagement, not to mention education, and focus on future possibilities. Think hackathons, science fairs, art and creativity exhibitions, and the list goes on. How about younger performing artists? So it could be art and creativity in the form of plays or musical events, recitals. Remember those? And the list goes on. And make sure participation is visible so that people can consume, they can watch, they can play a part in the finale. If it's a hackathon, your audience won't want to hang out for 48 hours straight, but they can come and see who the winners are. If there are winners, they can see the final demos, etc. And so that the people who participate actually receive some sort of recognition. This is sort of like a celebration, taking the time, putting in the effort. This will pay off later. So your Civic startup will have to contend with the fact that some of the benefit will be seen and felt 5 or 10 years in the future. Very basically, new ways to do old things so that silos of social media, streaming, and gaming are not isolating people and their ideas and their feelings about things and their opinions and so on, and their perceptions of the world. So they're not isolated from reality. Like, hey, somebody tweeted about this. No, you can go outside. And yeah, but the tweet, it has a picture of the grass and I'm not a fan of the touch grass because it's very dismissive. But there is a difference between seeing a picture of outside and then going outside and, oh, hey, look, I'm not sitting in my gamer chair making fun of people. Make it more clear that people with ideas and aspirations need not wait for those in government or on high to take action and make the ideas that they have happen, right? You don't need to ask permission. If you're an entrepreneur, an entrepreneurial innovator, even better, do it. If you are in a place, as I am, where too many people are spectators waiting for someone else to take action, I've talked about this previously, you may have your work cut out for you, but who doesn't like a challenge? I always used to tell people for the purposes of job interviews, I would say I would much rather seek a job, interview for a job around something I've never done before than something I've been doing for 10 years or 20 years. It's a hard sell. That's a hard sell in an interview. Well, have you ever done this before? Nope. But that's what makes it interesting. So doing something that's a challenging or new is sometimes what floats the boat. And that's the sign of an entrepreneurial innovator, if I may say. What? It can't be done? Oh, that was my other thing. When I hear it can't be done, that's a sort of a motivation. And when I hear it's impossible, that just means it can't be done, but it will take longer. Platforms over apps. We're coming to the end, I promise. This is not only about software, though these are the easiest examples, software platforms. Ponder your Civic startup. Ponder building something that enables others to build something. If your platform is flexible and functional, you can build it and build upon it with other ideas, as can others. And not all these tenants on your platform need to be successful to continue growing the platform. So that is, you could, the First Friday example. First Friday is a platform, right? First Friday on its own is a day on a calendar and maybe some generators and some blocked streets. It's the participation of other small businesses, of other individual creators, artists, purveyors of food and other, snacks, musical performers, and so on. So the platform that you build enables others to participate. So that's something to think about. And First Friday is not software, although it would benefit substantially from better software here in Vegas. If you build a platform that works, others might be able to adopt your platform and put it to use with what they are doing. Suppose the person who invented First Friday said, hey, people in other places, did you know every month, right at the beginning of the month, Friday, think about it. So if you come up with something that works for other people, you can make that into some sort of a business as well. This is commonplace in the tech world. Entire businesses are built on this. Can you think in similar fashion to enable others in similar ways, not necessarily in the software world? So in other words, pick a software platform. WordPress? No. That's sort of a platform, but they're awful. Linux? Linux is definitely the basis of a platform that others build on. There are too many things in the software world that are basically shared across people and projects and companies and so on. The open source world is not necessarily complex. And I can't even say it's complicated, although it's become complicated lately in some cases. But it's just vast, and there's so much utility that comes from working together when you don't even know you're working together. Hey, I found a useful thing. So that mindset comes in handy. It doesn't only apply to software, though, although sharing software at a distance is easier than like building a stage. Like, hey, we built this stage. That's kind of like a platform. You got to share that in a different way, but anything is possible. Better still, build platforms that work together. Again, inspired by software, so that there is, I can't believe I spelled there wrong. Oh my God. So that there is net addition. That is, they don't subtract from each other. For example, suppose you organize the First Friday platform and invite food trucks and musical performers and artists and who knows who else. And your platform works with a neighborhood engagement platform to make a First Friday that is portable and which can occur in multiple places at once. Now, you would think, oh, they're going to compete with each other. That is true. Sort of. I can go to any First Friday I want. There are multiple choices. I don't have to deal with parking if I go to the one that I can walk to. People can come to our First Friday that's in our, quote unquote, our neighborhood. I can go to theirs. There are a certain number of food trucks, mobile vendors. Now they have more opportunities. Now, I'm not saying you have to have 50 First Friday events, but you could have 3 or 4, right? Different corners of your region. You open up the possibilities. You extend the reach. You encourage people to, I don't want to have to go downtown. I can bring the kids 2 blocks away. We don't have to park. We can walk. Hey, we'll walk around our neighborhood with our fellow neighborhood watch neighbors, and we can have a little mini neighborhood meetup at the First Friday. You've now made 2 events that fit together, and you've accomplished something more than either of them would have on their own. More participation across a larger area. Fewer parking issues, more engagement, more possibility. That's how it starts. On a personal note, there's an Obsidian bug, and I've mentioned this before, and it really annoys me. It's the way it displays bullet lists at the bottom of the page. It always leaves one of the items hanging to the left. Anyway, I suppose the top-down is problematic for any number of reasons. No, I don't suppose. I think that. You may disagree. I think that top-down is problematic for any number of reasons, some of which we are all experiencing today, but which have been hovering over all of us for decades at this point. Now, you may think I'm talking about politics, but no, I'm talking about things like social media platforms and who's allowed to post what, when, where, which things get amplified by algorithms and so on. I will tell you today, this Friday, this is the 8th of November, the algorithm. By the way, Instagram is really bad at this, but Google is just as bad. So Google suggests on my phone, I get a little notification, hey, here's a video from left-leaning pundit on YouTube. It's a short. Trump just received some amazing bad news. There's a pollster in Iowa, and you're like, oh, geez, this is from like a week ago. So the algorithm is trying to feed me things and it has no regard for context or date. And this is the problem, is that one thing can be amplified over, and it's not the problem, amplified over and over for days and weeks before. And I mean, it's just not before, but after. So these things linger, and people will literally think, and this has happened in the food truck world, oh, I thought you were going to be at my usual, at the hospital in the parking lot for lunch today. Oh no, we were there 2 days ago. Yeah, but it says today. Yeah, but that was posted 2 days ago. Oh yeah. So the algorithm doesn't really care about you, doesn't care about what you're trying to accomplish. Every big giant company, and it's getting worse, by the way, every big giant company today started somewhere, started somewhere, and they went along the path to world domination. So they exist today as Google, Amazon, Facebook, Meta, Apple. Bleh. I don't care for any of those companies. Amazon is really getting on my nerves. And I've worked at Apple, and I would never work there again, nor purchase any of their products. I would like to think that there are many possibilities for success in many areas that are not so bent on crushing the competition and absorbing everything from everyone everywhere. I just saw a headline. I did not investigate it yet. I clipped the book. I bookmarked it. Does that still mean anything to anyone? I will read it later. Phone carriers, Verizon, AT&T, others are involved in some lawsuit regarding sharing of personal location information of their customers, and they are asserting that selling the personal location information of our customers is not a protected personal data privacy violation. So the laws don't protect it. So we're going to make money, but we're not really going to make that clear to people. And that is the world we live in. And it's for me as someone in the tech sector, it can be very frustrating to know that in some small way I'm somehow part of all this. I myself am pursuing a few ideas, which I have mentioned previously. So I've mentioned that I'm pursuing the ideas that I'm pursuing in previous episodes that align with what I have suggested during this episode previously, as in now, previously to now. Though there is nothing exclusive going on here. So I would absolutely encourage some variety and choice. We are too stuck with too few choices and too much social pressure to get into the same boat or be left out. Meh. Hey, do you use WhatsApp? No. Oh, you should join WhatsApps, and we have a group. I'm like, nope, I don't use WhatsApp. Yeah, but you're missing out. Oh, you got to follow me on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter anymore. Yeah, but I'm only on Twitter. As it is, I kind of feel sick or icky or like I'm cheating in some way when I look at Instagram content. Vegas loves Instagram. Many Instagram content creators in Vegas. I wish they could do better. Things are always interesting. They may get more interesting in the near future, but thinking local first might be worthwhile if you need a distraction. I'm not going to try to get on the lamentation train. I'm not going to tell you, oh, drink water and feel better. And, democracy, it's about voting and There was no noteworthy problems with the election. The vote went off. As I mentioned earlier, I dropped off my ballot. I can see that it was accounted for, so that's very nice. The outcome, well, when you enter a contest where there will be a winner and a loser, you cannot cry when you're the loser if you were going to be happy to be the winner. You can just be happy that there was an outcome. It's unfortunate that it didn't go your way, but if people cried this much when they lost the lottery, like, I didn't get the $1 million for registering, well, you played in the game. There's the outcome is what it is. It's what you do next that matters. But I'm saying that the acting locally part is a reasonable start for any entrepreneurial aspiration. And as I have said many times, chaos is opportunity. So take advantage of the opportunity. If you want to distract yourself, think about ways that you can apply all this negativity that you might be feeling, or positivity even. Hey, if you lean to the right and you believe that you want half the population to be silenced, or, well, I don't know you, but for the most part, I like almost every person I know in general, in-person engagement or like, people out in the world, they're pretty much interested in interacting about events of the day. You go to a trade show, go to a conference, go to a convention here in Vegas. There may be some protesters outside or something, but you go to CES, you're going to go there and experience interactions with people that are interested in the consumer electronics space, especially in the products that they're representing in the booth. Or if you're walking through the booth hallways and whatnot, you might run into somebody or you might run into nobody walks up to you and says, "Hey, who did you vote for?" So around elections, it can get very interesting. But generally speaking, any of the energy that is going in the wrong direction right now could very easily be spent looking forward, looking to the future. And if you believe there's a problem to solve, you should do that, because once again, chaos is opportunity. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today on this, the 8th of November, 2024. Don't forget to check out buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo and Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo for updates. And I will definitely try to add more content to Ko-fi. I've been pondering. No, really, I have. I'm not just saying that. But there's so much to do. I got a lot of chaos or tons and tons of opportunity. You take your pick. That's where we're going to leave it today. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next week. By the way, if you do have a Civic startup and you want to come on and talk about it, drop me a line, media@cafegenius.org. Cafe with 2 F's, as always, CAFFEGENIUS.org. Media@cafegenius.org. Let me know. Bye-bye.